In the shifting sands of the Middle East, a silent revolution in warfare is gaining speed. Israel's latest armored marvel isn't just outperforming expectations, it's setting new ones. And what it just demonstrated against the capabilities of Iran and Russia has military experts stunned. This isn't a tank, it's a warning. Before we dive into what makes this machine a game changer, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. You're about to explore a war-fighting platform so advanced that it's rewriting the rules of armored combat and reshaping the global balance. In 2023, Israel introduced the Merkava Mark V, codenamed Barak, a main battle tank that doesn't just outmatch regional rivals, it outthinks them. With AI integration, real-time combat networking, and a full suite of active defense systems, Barak is setting a new gold standard for 21st century armor. Unlike its predecessors, Barak is not merely a stronger tank. It's a cognitive battlefield system, one that turns chaos into clarity. In an age where wars are fought with drones, missiles, and information, the Barak is less about brute force and more about digital dominance. The tank's Trophy Active Protection System intercepts incoming rockets or anti-tank guided missiles in mid-air, then geotags the point of origin and transmits that data to nearby drones, helicopters, and command centers. Hezbollah's Cornet teams have been neutralized before their second shot. Hamas anti-tank units in Gaza have watched their weapons explode uselessly in the sky. The tank sees in every direction with 360-degree thermal imaging, powered by AI that distinguishes threats faster than any human operator. It links with IDF drones and overhead surveillance to construct a live tactical map, updated every second. It's not just reactive, it's predictive. Compare that to Iran's primary tank forces, a fleet of T-72s, Chieftains, and the locally assembled Zulfikar, based on 1970s technology. These tanks have outdated optics, weak armor, and little to no digital communication. In exercises simulating Iranian tactics, Barak tanks defeated their targets at a 12-to-1 kill ratio without suffering a single simulated loss. Russia's fleet may be slightly better on paper, but even the T-90M, their most advanced widely deployed tank, lags behind Barak in targeting, AI, and protection systems. The T-14 Armata, heavily hyped as a game-changer, remains sparsely deployed and plagued by technical issues. Meanwhile, the IDF has already begun fielding Barak in active zones. The tank is more than steel, it's philosophy. Israeli defense planners call it part of their Iron Sting doctrine. Eliminate threats before they become battles. During a 2024 border clash with Iranian-backed forces in southern Syria, Barak tanks were deployed along with loitering munitions and Hermes 900 drones. Within minutes, the enemy's armored push was stopped cold, their vehicles disabled before they could enter engagement range. The Merkava Barak thrives not just on the battlefield, but in the urban sprawl. In Gaza, the tank's AI-assisted targeting allows it to scan buildings, detect infrared signatures through walls, and coordinate with drone footage to anticipate ambushes. In one engagement, a Barak tank altered its route by 12 feet, avoiding a roadside IED spotted only by soil disruption analysis. Seconds later, the IED exploded harmlessly behind it. Meanwhile, in Russia's war in Ukraine, we've seen how vulnerable legacy armor is. Hundreds of Russian tanks have been destroyed by portable anti-tank weapons, drones, and even improvised explosives. The lesson? Armor alone is no longer enough. You need speed, data, and vision. Barak delivers all three. The IDF's Fire Weaver system links the Barak to other platforms in real time. When a Barak spots an enemy mortar team, it can request a drone strike or coordinate a sniper shot instantly. Every vehicle becomes a sensor, every soldier becomes a node. This isn't mechanized warfare, it's digitized warfare. Israel is already pushing toward the future with Barak X, a prototype for an unmanned tank variant. These robotic systems will scout, map, and engage without risking human lives. Controlled remotely, they'll use Barak's same AI core to navigate terrain, identify threats, and even launch self-guided drones mid-battle. But it gets more ambitious. By 2025, Israel aims to integrate directed energy weapons and lasers into its armored units. These systems will shoot down drones and mortar shells before they reach their target, adding a new layer of defense on top of the already formidable trophy system. It won't just protect itself, it'll protect nearby troops and vehicles too. In terms of export interest, countries like India, Germany, and South Korea have begun informal discussions about adopting similar technology. India, facing threats from both Pakistan and China, sees Barak as ideal for mountainous terrain and hybrid warfare zones. Barak's advanced mobility and sensor suite would give it a significant edge over China's VT-4 tanks. U.S. Army observers at IDF exercises in 2024 noted that Barak's AI threat recognition system was 43% faster than traditional human-only systems. They also praised its operator interface, which uses augmented reality overlays to simplify complex targeting data. The Abrams M1A2 SEPV3, while powerful, simply isn't designed to think for itself. Iranian state media has labeled the tank overrated. Russian outlets claim it's untested. But leaked footage, satellite images, and confirmed battlefield results say otherwise. The tank has performed beyond expectations in at least 3 classified operations in 2024 alone, each involving real-time coordination, drone support, and rapid threat elimination. In war games conducted near the Negev desert, the IDF simulated a full-scale Iranian invasion with combined infantry and armor. The Barak led the counterattack. Results: 92% threat elimination in 45 minutes with 0 friendly losses. That's not speculation, that's capability. And it's not just hardware, it's doctrine. Israel's approach is proactive, fast, and ruthless. It uses tanks not to absorb damage, but to prevent the need for prolonged battle. You don't see the Barak in a war of attrition. You see it in a war of precision. And that's what terrifies Iran and Russia. Not the armor, not the firepower, but the fact is that every second counts, and Barak makes decisions in milliseconds. The arrival of the Merkava Barak has sent shockwaves through the entire Middle East defense establishment, not just because of its specifications, but because of what it symbolizes. Israel's deterrence doctrine has relied on maintaining a qualitative military edge for decades, especially given its small size and population. The Barak pushes that edge beyond traditional deterrence into something else: predictive warfare. That matters in a region full of asymmetric threats, where state actors like Iran and non-state militias like Hezbollah operate not just with rockets, but with influence. Now, Israel is no longer simply responding to attacks. It's anticipating and neutralizing them in real time. This changes the psychology of deterrence. Iran can no longer count on plausible deniability or gray zone tactics. Hezbollah can no longer assume that hit-and-run ambushes will stall Israeli armor. The Barak doesn't wait to be attacked. It identifies the staging ground before the enemy fires. It links with satellites, intercepts comms, and pre-positions its gun. For enemy commanders, that means their battlefield plan could be invalid before it even begins. And this has implications beyond the IDF's borders. Jordan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, nations that quietly coordinate security with Israel, are already recalibrating their armored strategies. The UAE has inquired about joint development possibilities. Turkey, while politically hostile, has military analysts quietly dissecting Barak's AI package. Because in an era where alliances shift rapidly, being on the wrong side of this technological divide could mean a total battlefield collapse. The Middle East is no stranger to revolutionary weapons such as the Iron Dome, drones, and cyber units. Still, the Barak represents something rare, a legacy platform, the tank, reinvented so thoroughly that it no longer belongs to its past. It belongs to the next war, and that war might not look like war. It might be a series of preemptive, bloodless, high-tech shutdowns of conflict before it escalates. In that world, whoever sees first wins, and Barak sees everything. The war in Ukraine has served as a grim laboratory for modern armor and its vulnerabilities. Russian T-72s and T-90s, once feared as armored spearheads, have been exposed by nimble Ukrainian units using javelins, drones, and mobile artillery. Entire armored columns have been wiped out in ambushes. Decentralized warfare, satellite intelligence, and AI-assisted targeting have proven decisive. Israel was watching, and Barak was built with those lessons in mind. Unlike the Russian model, which still leans on weight and frontal armor, Israel's Barak prioritizes mobility, integration, and survivability through intelligence. In Ukraine, tanks died because they couldn't see. Barak lives because it sees everything. It doesn't need to be invulnerable if it's never targeted. Even though its route planning uses AI, it doesn't follow preset roads, but dynamically maps threats using infrared, seismic data, and even electromagnetic anomalies. Barak's edge isn't just physical, it's conceptual. It was designed not for blitzkrieg or static front lines, but for unpredictable, decentralized battlefields where the enemy blends into the population or hides in tunnels. That's why Ukraine is requesting not just more tanks, but better sensors, better communication, and more autonomy for their armored units. In the next decade, the nations that survive militarily will not be those with the most tanks, but those with tanks that think. And while Russia loses crews and vehicles in the Donbas, Israel has built a tank designed not to be sent into hell, but to prevent hell from forming in the first place. The global tank doctrine is shifting, and Barak didn't just respond to that shift, it caused it. Beyond its armor and AI, the Barak holds a different kind of power, psychological. In warfare, morale shapes everything. Fighters hesitate when they believe the enemy is invincible. Commanders rethink plans when uncertainty replaces confidence. And what the Barak projects is uncertainty. Uncertainty in whether it can be outmaneuvered, outsmarted, or even seen in time to strike. For Hezbollah militants, it represents futility. For Iranian Quds force advisors, it presents a logistical nightmare. How do you fight something that spots your mortar crew from 5 kilometers away and relays their location to a drone above your head in real time? Propaganda fails when you cannot produce a victory reel. Morale plummets when you train for years only to be eliminated by a vehicle you never saw. This is how psychological warfare works in the modern age. Not through leaflets or radio broadcasts, but through technological supremacy that renders resistance functionally meaningless. Inside Israel, the Barak also serves another purpose: national confidence. The threat matrix around Israel is dense with threats from Gaza, arms smuggling in Sinai, militias in Lebanon, and Iranian proxy operations across Syria and Iraq. A breakthrough in armor doctrine is not just a tactical win. It's a message to Israeli society that their nation is still innovating, defending, and winning. In peacetime, the Barak patrols. In war, it terminates. In both roles, it sends the same message: we are ready. That readiness isn't abstract. It's embedded into the very DNA of the machine. And it reminds enemies that Israel doesn't fear war. It prepares to finish it before it begins. While Israel has not formally declared an export version of the Merkava Barak, quiet signals are being sent across global defense circles and received loudly. Nations with active border threats, insurgency risks, or aging armored fleets are now eyeing Israel's achievement as a blueprint for future procurement. India, with its long-running standoff in Ladakh against Chinese Type 15 light tanks and VT-4s, has reportedly initiated informal dialogues with Israeli defense companies. For a country that operates thousands of outdated T-72s and T-90s with limited modernization options, the prospect of integrating Barak-like technologies, especially AI-assisted optics, real-time targeting, and predictive route planning, is seen as transformational. The attraction is not just the tank's survivability, but the entire doctrine it brings. Similarly, Colombia and Brazil, which face dense jungle terrain and narco-terrorist networks, have expressed interest in low-profile variants that can operate in hybrid warfare environments. These would be less about frontal war and more about stealthy power projection, something Barak excels at. Even Germany, the builder of the legendary Leopard 2, has sent observers to evaluate the Merkava's crew survivability systems, particularly its forward-placed engine design and modular repairability. And South Korea, which faces the threat of an unpredictable northern neighbor, is already testing several Israeli AI battlefield tools that are believed to mirror Barak's data fusion model. While formal sales may take years, the message is clear. Barak has sparked a new race, not to build heavier tanks, but to build smarter ones. Even countries not planning to buy Merkava units are now racing to retrofit their own fleets with comparable technologies. In effect, Israel has redefined the standard for what a modern tank must be, not by mass production, but by innovation. And just as Iron Dome reshaped how nations viewed air defense, the Barak is beginning to reshape global perceptions of what a tank actually is. It's no longer a vehicle, it's an ecosystem, one that promises to dominate any battlefield it enters and influence many it never will. While tanks are built to fight, the Barak was engineered to do something subtler but arguably more powerful: deter. In a region as volatile as the Middle East, where lines between peace and war blur daily, deterrence isn't a policy, it's a necessity. Few military platforms in recent history embody that principle more effectively than the Merkava Barak. The Barak's deterrent power doesn't come from dramatic military parades or loud declarations. It comes from its proven, silent, undeniable performance. Enemies aren't guessing what it might do. They're calculating how fast it will do it. This tank doesn't promise to survive a battle. It promises to erase the need for one. That's the power of layered dominance. When a Hezbollah commander knows that within seconds of setting up an RPG, his position will be triangulated by a Barak-linked drone, targeted by a loitering munition, and finally shelled with a precision round, all without a single soldier being exposed. That's not just a deterrent. That's psychological collapse. Even Iranian planners, as aggressive as their rhetoric may be, must contend with the reality that launching an armored incursion against Israel could result in catastrophic loss before a formal declaration of hostilities. This isn't a theory, it's demonstrated performance. Deterrence by design also affects domestic stability. In Israel, confidence in security platforms like Barak reduces political pressure for preemptive strikes and escalatory action. Knowing the tank can operate as a mobile fortress, a digital scout, and a self-defending warfighter allows for strategic patience. It gives commanders time, space, and options, and that flexibility is critical in avoiding unnecessary wars. At its core, the Barak tank is an embodiment of modern deterrence. It exists not to invite battle, but to prevent one. By making the consequences of aggression so swift, so one-sided, and so technologically overwhelming that the only logical move for an adversary is restraint. That's not bravado, that's smart defense. And as long as Barak leads the charge, Israel's adversaries will keep thinking twice, not just about where they strike, but whether to strike at all. The battlefield is no longer about who fires first, but who senses first, who thinks faster, and who connects deeper. Barak isn't just reshaping Israel's military, it's setting the pace for global land warfare. And every day it operates, it widens the gap between conventional threats and intelligent response systems. In every zone where Barak rolls, it leaves behind more than scorched wreckage. It leaves behind a new reality: that future wars will be won by those who see faster, move smarter, and strike first. The tank isn't obsolete. The old idea of a tank is. And while Iran and Russia cling to Cold War tactics, Israel is already testing tomorrow. What do you think? Will AI and autonomous tanks reshape the future of ground warfare? Could older powers like Russia and Iran catch up? Or are they already too far behind? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this video opened your eyes to the next generation of war machines, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. There's more coming, and it's faster than you think. Thanks for watching.